listening to our proposal. As Dr. Kopp said, we're eLearning Solutions. My name's Dane Moore. I'm the project manager of eLearning Solutions. I'd like to take the time now to have my team introduce themselves to you.
I'm Melinda Ross. I'm the instructional designer.
I'm Rachel Boone. I'm the graphic designer.
I'm Jessie Napcora. I'm quality assurance.
And I'm Shannon Musgrove, the lead developer.
Okay, so before we jump into our solution, I'd like to talk a little bit about the experience we have in this type of project. We've previously worked with IUP, Lebanon Valley College, and University of North Florida, and we created a professional development training for all three of those schools for their students. So we're very versed in this type of project, and this project excites us a lot. So moving on, I'm going to give it to Shannon to talk more about our company.
Thank you. eLearning Solutions, we're an innovative instructional design technology company, and we were founded in 2004. We are only 5 members of a dynamic team of 100, creative, forward-thinking employees that center our solutions around customer satisfaction and quality instructional technologies. But before we go into that, Mindy's going to bring up our plan and our agenda for the day.
Thank you. Okay, so what we're going to cover today is our design of the modules that we are going to be creating for you. In addition, we're going to talk about our budget. You'll get to see our prototype, and we're going to outline our quality assurance, risk management, and communication plan. So now Jessie's going to tell you about how eLearning Solutions can help.
eLearning Solutions can help because we want to implement a solution that enhances what Permanente University already offers to their students through the Career Center. After reviewing the request for proposal and the spring 2016 course outline, we find that there's a very solid base that we can build off of with our solution. And going off of that, we want to use what's already available to the university. So we have built our solution to fit into the LMS Brightspace. And a little bit more about our solution, it's going to be short, 10 to 15 modules that are manageable for the students. And we want to meet them both in terms of where they are professionally as well as geographically. So they can complete a module on campus, at home, even on the go. And Rachel's going to tell you a little bit about what exactly it is we want to enhance.
So what we interpreted from the RFP is that Permanente University would like to incorporate an LMS with their face-to-face opportunities, such as their workshops and their classroom presentations. To do this, we're going to generate the more interactive LMS to help engage and connect to the students. To help engage and connect to students, we're going to show them the relevance and the importance of the information in the module and how it correlates to the professional world on the outside. We also want to consider the time constraints that your students may be under. So these are things like your last minute just in time. Our technology that we plan to incorporate would be our computer-based, so the desktop version of the module, our mobile application, which would be seen on smart devices, and our social media, which Shannon is actually going to talk a little bit more about.
Thank you. So our plan of enhancement includes 3 features to 1 solution. Our mobile learning, micro learning modules, our mobile application, and a Slack community, which helps engage your faculty, your staff, and your students in a conversation around career preparation and around career readiness. So one thing we know when we're developing your solution is that we're catering to technology-age students. And what do we know about those students? They want what they want, when they want it, and how they want to access it. So we plan to use responsive design to meet your students where they are. And that means that they could access our solution on the desktop, on tablets, or mobile devices. With responsive design, that allows your students the flexibility to really access that program anywhere without compromising the content, the quality of our solution. So we plan to use your current learning management system, Brightspace, for 3 reasons. It's cost efficient to use what you already have. With your current LMS, we plan to enhance your features of having quality feedback from your faculty to students through audio messages, video messages, written communication, and even customizing that face-to-face interaction so that your students continue to grow. We also plan to use the current LMS because this is an already familiar platform for your students and your faculty. Using Captivate, it's a well-known and widely used program in the industry, and we plan to use this authoring tool to create these highly interactive programs. We're going to integrate that in that already familiar platform for your students, and also have that integration that Brightspace allows us to integrate into our independent mobile application. So using Brightspace to communicate with our independent app allows for communication and student engagement back to Brightspace. Brightspace also allows you guys the integration for our mobile application also gives the university flexibility. In case you want to change learning management systems in the future, you can take all of our features to our solution with you. So you don't have to compromise the mobile application. So as our mobile app communicates with Brightspace, it allows your faculty to assess and track the data for your students. This really empowers your staff to give engaging feedback for your students so your students continue to grow and be ready for the job market. So overall, Brightspace is going to interact with our solution, our mobile application, and empower your staff to give better assessments for your students.
Thank you, Shanna. You're welcome. Okay, so when we create a technical solution, we look at these 4 components on the screen behind me. Number 1, maintainability. We're going to give you all the raw files so that down the road, if you want to add resources or make any changes, you have that ability. Accessibility. We look at, as Shannon was talking about responsive design, we design our training for any type of device. So it's desktop, tablet, or smartphone. Also with accessibility, we have the ability now to publish our project to the internet and everybody can log in and take it as long as they have a Wi-Fi. So they don't have to come to campus to do our module or our training. Usability, like we talked about, Adobe Captivate. And the reason we chose to do Adobe Captivate is because from our experience with other students at different universities, especially the students that had no previous experience with online training, they found that authoring tool the easiest to use. And lastly, compatibility. Every technical solution we use, we check across the board on all sorts of browsers, all different mobile device platforms. So everything is ensured for the student to use it. So next we're going to hand it over to Mindy, and she'll talk a little about our instruction.
Okay, so I'm going to start with how our modules are actually going to be made up, the proven instructional methods behind why we chose our modules to go this way, and our instructional design model. So first, our course design. We are going to have about 1 hour to 1.5 hours of content for your students. Within this course, you're going to have mini micro modules that are going to be from 10 to 15 minutes. So within those micro modules, you're going to have content, interactions, and assessments. So the students will now be accessing this on their own time, which provides the CCR the ability to plan more events where they are actually engaging with their students rather than teaching the information that they're now going to get from the module. So our instructional solution wraps around Bloom's cognitive domain. So we're going to move from a lower order thinking to a higher level thinking. So for example, a student Jimmy, he's a freshman, he comes into Permonte University and he does not know how to write a resume and he needs to for class. So his first thing that he's going to do is he's going to access our module and he will come in and he's going to start by first getting the base knowledge of the resume. And then he will start to understand, okay, so I know that these different aspects have to go into a resume. Then he will apply those methods that he has just learned, and that will allow him, through an interaction, to apply what he understands and gain the knowledge from. He will then analyze his information and then be evaluated and evaluate himself. He will then go on to creating his own resume by what he learned throughout the module by applying it to a hypothetical situation. So that will move him from a lower order thinking to a higher level thinking. We also choose to use the affective domain. So at eLearning Solutions, we think that this is important because this domain focuses on internalizing values. So just same student, Jimmy, he's still coming in the same triangular model that the cognitive design was on, and he is now receiving that same information. He's responding to it, maybe internally, maybe through the module. Then he's valuing those things that he's learning. He's able to organize his thoughts and internalize those values. So in addition to Bloom's taxonomy of the cognitive and the affective domains, we also use Gagney's 9 events. So same student, Jimmy, he's getting all of these things all at the same time, so he's now in the Gagney's 9 events. So we grab his attention and inform him of the objectives by using a scenario. Then we're going to simulate his prior recall of that learning. Maybe he learned about a resume before and he realizes, oh, I have one, I could just bring it up. So then he's presented the stimulus through that interaction, he's provided the learning guidance, and he elicits performance. The module will then provide Jimmy with feedback, and his performance is assessed and tracked through Brightspace. Finally, he enhances his retention and transfer, and he is able to move on and attend an event at the CCR where maybe he gets training on how to make his resume better or how he can improve on different parts of his resume. So how does this all fit into what we do, the instructional design? So the instructional design model that we have chosen and that we have proven to work is the ADDIE model. How many here have learned about the ADDIE model or know a little bit about the ADDIE model? Okay, so most of us do. So let me give you a rundown of exactly what we are going to do with the ADDIE model. So first, with analysis, we're going to analyze about 40% of your modules. So about 7 to 8 modules we're going to actually look at, and we're going to assess any learning gaps and maybe things that we can cut out or maybe things that we can put in. Then we are going to go to the design phase, and that's where the cognitive and the affective domains come in, Gagne's 9 events, and we use those to really make a systematic approach to our modules. Then we go into development. We've already done some of the development already for today with our prototype, so you will get to see that, but that's where you are going to actually for the first time see exactly how we plan to lay this out. And then with implementation, at eLearning Solutions, we like to focus on doing 2 test pilot groups. We believe that it gives the more vast diversity of your student population, which can then make a better module and a better product. And then finally, we evaluate what we have finally done and give you the best project possible. So now Rachel is going to show you how the prototype works.
So we design with simplicity in mind because we understand that you have a very diverse group of students, and we don't want anyone to become intimidated by the user interface. So this is what our home screen would look like. To begin, you simply click Begin. We're going to take Jimmy because he's really excited for his interview and look at the 3 different categories we have on the left. On the left side, those tabs represent the 17 modules that we will actually present from your micro lessons. So Jimmy wants to do his interview. Within here, you can see that this is, let's get rid of that. These are the 4 different categories within those micro lessons. But Jimmy, once again, is focused on making sure he looks good for his interview. So just for success, this is where Permanente University would put any content they feel is necessary for their students to know while going into an interview. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And on this slide, Jimmy will successfully dress his character in a professional manner. So we'll click a blue shirt, black dress pants, and this tie because Jimmy has really good taste, and choose his outfit. And he dressed his character. He looks fabulous. So this is our feedback slide. It'll either say, great job, you can continue, or maybe not so much, can you go back and pick out a better outfit? So since Jimmy did well, we're going to continue. And you'll come to your badge slide. Throughout the modules, you'll actually collect badges that represent what you've just completed. What's really cool about this is once you've completed them, you don't have to report back to your CCR staff because it's actually all being tracked through Brightspace. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit now about our budget. Our overall cost is $119,819. We actually gave you 2 different options because we don't like to have you feel that you're locked into one set way. We feel that option 2 is the best choice for you guys because it incorporates Brightspace and the mobile app, which we would generate. The really cool thing about it is, like Shannon has mentioned before, say you choose not to use Brightspace, you can still keep our mobile application. If we take a step down, we can see that option 1 is just Brightspace. So this is just the Brightspace and the module being done on the actual desktop computer. For our first year alumni add-on to either course, this is something really awesome because when your alumni are the first year out and they're worried about what they should put in their resume, how they should dress, they can log in using their alumni email address so they don't have to have an active student account, get the information that they feel they need, be confident walking into the interview, and maybe even make some alumni donations down the road. So Jessie is going to talk a little bit about our timeline.
I'm going to present you with a general timeline that we have implemented on similar projects with other universities, and it's proven to work very well for us. And I'm going to break it down into 3 phases for you. So going into phase 1, you'll be presented with a project plan that details the concrete due dates of the deliverables I'm going to talk about, as well as a more complex communication plan for us to follow. So phase one, as Mindy mentioned, is all about the analysis. This is where we go in and we take a look at the courses that are already offered and the content in those courses, as well as take a really good look at our learners so that we may further customize the modules to them. So we'll present you with all of our analysis documents, get sign-offs from our SMEs, and then that'll bring us into phase two, which is where the module really starts to come together. This is where we generate all of our assessments, we do the design work, we have the storyboards, and at the end it will be a complete module. So we'll present that to you, get sign-offs, and that'll bring us into phase three where we want to evaluate this. This is where we'll sit down with a sample of our audience. We'll take some Permanente University students, have them go through the modules, and find out what they liked, what they didn't like, what worked for them, and see any improvements that we can make before we have it ready for you at the end of the fall 2016 semester, ready to implement in the spring. And now I also want to talk to you a little bit about our quality assurance process, starting with risk management, which is something that we put a lot of emphasis on. Before we even start a project, we as a team sit down with other experts on our staff who have experience with projects like this, and we identify all the possible risks associated with that project. And I'm going to use the example of maybe scope creep. Say we identify scope creep as a potential risk for this project, then we assess what scope creep can cause for us. So maybe it'll affect the budget, the timeline, even the resources on the project. And then we come up with the plan. Plan A, going into the project, we want to have very defined and solid objectives to prevent scope creep from happening. But say maybe there's something that we really want to include in this module that will drag the timeline out a little bit. So maybe plan B would maybe just renegotiate the timeline and see what we can rework. And say scope creep comes up, we implement our plans and we continue to control the risk. And also a little bit about the individual modules that we create. We assess the appearance, functionality, and the end result of each of them. So we look at the appearance, we make sure the images are clear, the text is legible, that it's an overall pleasing look for the user, and that it's also 508 compliant. We take a look at the functionality. All the interactions work from start to finish. It's just a smooth transition for the learner, and also that it is SCORM compliant, which is important because we are in this case dealing with an LMS. And also we look at the end result of the training, which is where our evaluations come in. We want to make sure that the training is doing what it's supposed to be doing and the learners are getting what they are supposed to be getting out of that training. And what I found is that communication is a very big factor in assuring that all these aspects of quality are as good as they can be. So Dane is about to outline our communication plan.
Thanks. So how we plan to communicate with Permanente University is simple but effective. When we're ready to deliver a product, we're going to meet as a team at eLearning Solutions and we're going to discuss everything. And if we think it's ready to send off, I'll sign off and I'll contact Permanente. And from there, we'll get together with you and have you sign off if you're happy and satisfied with our product. If not, we'll make the necessary changes. Aside from that, I like to contact you weekly, and this isn't a long process. This is a 5-minute phone call or a quick email just to make sure that you're up to date with our process and our progress. And aside from that, I like to meet on a deeper level once a month, and that can be virtually or in person. And I usually have my team with me for that to just kind of get you involved a little more in the deeper conversations that we've been having. And a lot of the time, that may just be sign-offs as well. So from there, we're going to hand it over to Shannon and begin to wrap up.
So we all have the college experience. We can all relate to that experience. And in that journey, we usually start with aspirations, dreams, and goals. And a lot of times those aspirations, our dreams, and our goals center around that job or that career or the lifestyle that we want to have after college. So how many of us can remember our first job interview? And can you remember how nervous you were for that job interview? I think that we can all sit down and tell stories about that very first job interview, how nervous we were, if we were prepared or not prepared, and we can continue to go on to tell if we got the job or if we didn't, what we did right and what we could have done better. So today our solution is going to prepare your graduates to be prepared for the job market. We're going to build successful and confident alumni who's going to relate their positive experience back to Permanente University, your CCR staff, and ultimately our solution that supports both of those things. So as we all share in that experience, I think we can all relate to the fact that a solution like this is truly just priceless.
So in conclusion today, we have given you our instructional and our technical solution. We have shown you our prototype, and we have proven how our quality assurance, risk management, and communication plan is going to be the best for you. In conclusion, if you think back to that student, Jimmy, and how he moved through this module, Jimmy is someone that I would want to have and that I would want to hire in the future.
Again, on behalf of eLearning Solutions, thank you all very much for your time this morning and hearing our proposal. We're very excited by this project. We hope that we could excite you a little bit as well. So if you have any questions, we'd like to take them now. Yes?
During your analysis phase, you mentioned that you're going to analyze about 40% of the modules. Why not 100%?
Do you want to take it?
Sure. When we analyze the modules, we're not going to analyze every single course that's given because the majority of the courses, that 40%, is going to give us what we need to know about the courses already. And then we could just take that framework from 7 out of the 17 courses that do work and don't work and just apply that across the board. So it would save on a little bit of time that we would need in order to really move on to the design phase.
Yes, over here.
You went through Bloom's and effective and Gagne. You presented them separately and explained how Jimmy was going to use those in his resume class. One of the things that it sounded like to me, and I want to make sure, how are you incorporating and blending those into one experience of art? Is that resume going to be, 3 different experiences to make sure you covered all 3 of them? It sounded like they were separate.
Okay. They're kind of going to work hand in hand together. So as he's gaining his knowledge, we would also consider that receiving the information. It would kind of be more of a hand in hand type of module, like the course, that little micro module would have them working hand in hand together, which would then pull in the Gagnes and events. They are presented separately because sometimes it's easier just to see, I figured that it was easier just to see them as one rather than a bunch on the screen.
Over in the back.
Oh, me?
Yes.
Okay. So just moving forward, if we were to go with this solution, would I be able to go in there and maybe edit some of the content? Like maybe I'm reading some of the words and we're changing it in the university. Would I have that ability, or would I have to contact your team to make any updates?
So yeah, the maintainability portion of our project, you would have all the raw files and you have Adobe Captivate, so you yourself could go in and change anything. So, sir, you had a question?
Yes, thank you for showing the prototype. Could you show the first screen of the prototype?
Sure.
And while you're flipping back, I'm just was curious to know a little bit more about when a student enters, how those topics on the left would be chosen. Would they be chosen based on a freshman, sophomore, junior, senior status, or is there a relationship to the flex goals that we have?
That would be more of a discussion that we would have with you if we move forward, because you could set it up however you would like. We could do it by grade, or we could do it simply through, this is just the process you follow. So, yeah. Yes.
Sort of a follow-up question to that, related. How do I know that's, how does your system know that that's Jimmy? So if I'm a female and I log in here, I'm not going to want to wear the same outfit as Jimmy, obviously, or if I'm some different person.
Shannon, do you want to answer that?
Yeah. When a student logs into their Brightspace LMS, then we start to capture that data then. So we are going to customize each training based off of the student's login.
Yes.
Thank you. Love the prototype. It's great. workshop. And since we're trying to see them take these courses, and this is in the LMS, how are we melding the two data points together so that we know that that we can count, let's say, a face-to-face workshop on resumes along with maybe the Just for Success online course? How are those two systems talking to share that data on one student?
So, do you want to take that?
I can take it.
Okay.
So when we look through the assessment and the data tracking, you're going to see how much the student is engaged with the actual modules and how they're engaged, whether they're doing it on desktop or if they're using the mobile application. With that, we can use it almost as like a flipped classroom model, if you will, if that would help paint the picture. So a student will be prepared for resumes through the learning modules and then show up to the CCR attendance or whatever the face-to-face program or event that you choose to host. That can also show up in the LMS, in the actual modules as an event that they have attended. That could be another badge that the student would earn based off of face-to-face interaction. So how do they work? It would be up to the staff to kind of give us either an event calendar that we can upload within our modules or within the LMS. Does that answer your question?
No.
Okay.
So what you're saying is that the two systems can't talk to each other.
It would be up to the staff to upload the information of attendance. So it would be extra work on the staff's part just to make sure that the staff is interacting with the LMS. So ideally there's no way for the attendance to be uploaded unless we wanted to integrate an option where the students log in or have a technology-based component of attendance that's uploaded in the LMS. We could integrate that if that was something that you wanted to do.
We'll go over here. Sorry.
Thank you for your explanation of all your processes. I thought they were very thorough. My question is about the timeline. If we decide to work with you and give you this green light to go ahead, how long will you see it taking in order to get through the program?
Do you want to handle that, Jesse? Or
Let's see. I know I gave kind of a general framework, and I think we did have kind of an idea of where the different phases would begin and end. I know we want to do phase 1 with all our analyses to take about, I want to say about a month long is what we had planned for, because it was going to be done by the end of the fiscal year for the school. And then moving into phase 2, where all the design and development would take place and a full prototype and finalized module. If we're going to have it ready for you by the end of the fall semester, I would say it would be complete in November so that we could do the evaluations throughout the rest of November and December, and then have the complete finished product ready for spring.
yes.
One of the requirements we have is this social aspect. How is this bringing that in? I know you talked about saying Slack is part of the solution, but what about like Facebook or Twitter or any other aspect of the social media?
So our idea was, starting with Slack, we're going to build in, we're going to use and utilize other social media as well. The main component for Slack that we were using was it was going to be more course specific, but we're also going to CCR have them promote it through Facebook or Twitter or everything like that, just like they would any other event.
So where would they get to Slack? How would they get into it? Would it be from this interface? See it, or how do they launch?
So there'd be an invite on Slack and like a link that the students would be invited to this group, and then it's just like a constant stream of Facebook that they'd have access to whenever they logged in. Yep. Yes.
Part of the requirements is a diversity message throughout the entire program. How are you weaving that into your study?
Okay. Should I take that? Do you want?
I can.
Okay.
The diversity message is going to be, it's going to be worked in throughout. So some of the modules will have diverse characters, diverse avatars that they would interact with, but mostly we would focus on that diversity part really coming from these events that they're going to attend that are going to be put on by the CCR. The whole reason why we are changing most of this to a online format would be so that the CCR could promote and hold these events that the students would want to come to improve on their networking and social abilities, but it would also give them that diverse aspect to meet students that they normally would not get a chance to meet.
You had a question?
Yeah, I did.
Can you expand a little bit more on your alumni add-on, exactly what that is and how that works?
Sure.
Who
Right, so
wants
our
it?
alumni add-on is basically something just so we can reach out and still keep in contact with your alumni. You don't have to do it if you don't want to. You can add it on to either option that we did discuss today. What it is just kind of like that back support for them to know that they did graduate, but they're still not alone. We're still here, and we're proud of our alumni, and so we want to make sure that they're still confident going into their interviews or professional workplaces. So it's basically just another way to let them know, hey, we're still here, we're still thinking about you.
It's a really nice idea, and they would access it through the same portal?
Yep, they would use their alumni email address to just sign in.
We'll go in the back. Ladies first.
You were explaining your need and why you chose Captivate, and that was formative. But one of the audiences or stakeholders, you said that the students were like and found Captivate an easy tool to use for authoring. I'm confused about why their opinion and why they're authoring in Captivate.
Okay. To clarify, they liked the layout when it was already finished. They didn't create any of it. So they preferred Captivate over Storyline because we used both, and more students favored the Storyline modules Captivate rather than Storyline. So that's why we chose Captivate. Yes. Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot about it.
So my question comes from the prototype that you guys showed. So Jimmy picked his outfit and he got it right on the first try. I wouldn't necessarily have picked those clothes, so what would the feedback look like for me if I were to choose an incorrect answer?
Do you want to? Yeah.
The feedback would be, we would give you feedback as far as maybe where you can improve or why we would choose not to have the certain maybe shirt that you chose, maybe a short sleeve polo wouldn't be the best successful outfit. So we would give that interactive feedback and then allow the student to do it again. So it wouldn't be a harsh, no, you're wrong, just try it without guidance. We're going to make sure that we guide the student to the right outfit.
Yes.
About that as well. Is it before that slide came up, would this be when you explain, hey, listen, here's how you go about choosing the right outfit, now we'll let you try it, or is it here's a challenge first, and then based upon once you do that, now let's talk about how you go about picking the right one after you try it yourself. What would be that?
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, we actually did have a content screen. So before getting into the actual dressing the character for success, we would teach a student exactly what a outfit or proper interview outfit would be. So the student would have information before going into the assessment.
But I like the pre and post assessment idea. That's something we
Yeah.
could possibly think about working into.
Pushing the stripes, that's the idea.
Yes, sir.
I have a question about the budget. How's the Adobe Captivate 9, who owns those licenses? Do you own them or do we own them?
So you're actually, when you purchase it, you're going to end up owning it. That way you can have the access to the raw materials, work on it on your own, and not worry about bringing us back into it if you decide not to afterwards. But that's where the licenses would come from.
Yes.
Share with us a little bit about the buy-in aspect. So we're in here, we've seen some of the prototype and sample. How did we even get the students here? How are they knowing that they should be doing this? What did you envision as that part of the solution?
Okay. So
I would say when we discussed our experiences, you really do have to capture the student in the freshman year because we know after freshman year they're kind of lost doing their own thing. So in the freshman year, we really want to engage the students with their vision. What does your life look like in the next 4 years after you graduate with this degree? And really start relating that back to what the career aspect's going to be. Once you get that type of engagement from the student, I think the student will now buy into themselves and their own success and exactly what they want out of the 4 years that they are paying for their experience at Permanente University as well. And seeing all of those supporting features of their time will hopefully add to the CCR's sale of the product.
yes.
You made a slide that said it was an hour and a half total exposure when you have troubles, and you keep referring back to the event that we will be planning on. There is an assumption for every one of these activities that we will do online. You're making an assumption we have a
Our assumption is that so a resume building event would also incorporate interviews and touch on the dressing for success. We don't believe that there should be an event correlating for each single micro lesson or even overall course. Our hope would be that for the overall course that there would be a event that would cover many things, but we know that that's not always possible. But the exposure to these micro lessons and the exposure to some things that they might not get even through a regular event would make them more successful in the long run.
All right, I think that's it for questions. Thank you all very much again.